Welcome back to another episode of Positively Uncensored, your favorite reality TV and interview podcast. It is the day before the holidays. This holiday season is supposed to be about giving. And so, with that being said, I would just like to remind everybody that Positively Uncensored podcast supports the New Jersey Perinatal Health Equity Initiative, which is an organization dedicated to Black moms in New Jersey. New Jersey is the state that has the highest rate of maternal deaths for Black women that are entirely preventable. This organization is dedicated to bridging that gap, bringing back joy to Black mothers during their pregnancy, and ensuring a safe pregnancy. If you have the means to give to an organization this month, even if you don't live in New Jersey, it would be great for you to give to this organization. I would really appreciate it. And with that being said, I would like to talk about the next thing that I am very grateful for. I am so grateful to every person who supports me on Instagram, on YouTube, on TikTok. I just hit 100,000 followers on TikTok. I have been so excited for this day. I have been unsure if this day would come, yet sure in my delusions at the exact same time that this day would come. But I'm so excited. I feel like that, like I said, is a long time coming. The podcast has been around for about 4 years. When I first started, if it was a good week, 12 people were listening to the podcast. I started recording it in my closet. I started my TikTok account with the hopes that people who saw positively uncensored content would venture their way across the internet to hopefully stumble across my podcast. I post clips on my TikTok of my podcast and to spark some conversations that let people know I'm talking about things long form and full length for you on my podcast. And I just feel overwhelmingly grateful. I feel grateful to every person who supported me, who's shared like any of my content with your friends, with your family, to people who have taken time to leave a review, to people who have taken time to leave feedback, or to just affirm the fact that the podcast is doing what I wanted it to do. So I wouldn't be here and I wouldn't be recording content without each of you. I'm so grateful to you. You know who you are, the loyal people who are chiming in on every episode, liking all of my stories, always leaving a comment on YouTube. Thank you. Reminder though, if you have not liked this video, as you see, I have a banner scrolling across the bottom. Please like this video. Make sure you're subscribed. If you're listening on Spotify, I've noticed that a lot of people, thank you so much, have left me more reviews. I've also noticed that I think people have intended to leave me reviews and they ended up posting comments on my episode. Those comments make me feel so seen. They're so positive. I appreciate them 1,000,000,000%. But if you were unaware that it was posting as a comment instead of an actual review, if you've probably left a comment recently, go check that out. Possibly copy your comment that you left and then paste it as a separate review. Apple is the only one that allows you to leave text, just so you know. We have a lot to get into. We have a lot to talk about. This episode is going to be all over the place. I want to talk about the recent TikTok controversy with, is it called Market Pantry? I'm going to get this right because I was just looking at it. It is called Meadow Lane, the Meadow Lane Market. I want to talk about that out of touch grocery store that's come somewhere in New York City that people are trying, and there's been a lot of criticism over. I want to talk about secret life of Mormon wives and all of the chaos that's been on social media between Demi, Jessi, Marciano's recent interview with Heather McDonald. The takeaways that I have from that interview, the takeaways that I have towards Demi maintaining a position on the cast, towards the entire show in itself, and what these sentiments are making me feel about the show. And I also want to talk about, I know there was one more thing. Oh, Lisa Vanderpump's response to all of the Secret Life of Mormon wife drama. I want to talk about that. I watched Brittany from Married at First Sight's interview with AD on her podcast, What's the Reality? I'm keeping my fingers crossed that I get to talk to Brittany and other Married at First Sight cast members. But until then, I took a lot away from this interview. So I'm going to be recapping that. And I did watch Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, but I'm going to come back to recap that. Let me know if anybody else feels the same. I'm enjoying watching Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, but there's really not that much to talk about, right? Like we've got what happened to Brittany on the plane. We've got Meredith and Lisa denying it. We've got Brittany trying to mend her relationship with her daughter. We've got Mary's church. I'm so sorry. I had to pause it and cough. But really, aside from that, like I just don't know what there is to specifically dive into this season. Yeah. So with that being said, let's start. I'm going to preface right now with I will have to pause this several times so that I can watch things, make sure I'm showing you guys the exact timestamps that I want to show you. And also, this story is beyond convoluted. So if you hear me struggle with the timeline, struggle to understand things, that is going to happen. Additionally, I want to say that I believe that all of this is inappropriate. I believe that the introduction to this storyline of sexual assault to promote the show is disgusting. I think it's disgusting because the audience has been left with such little information. And I think it's disgusting because as more information comes out, it becomes more and more, I won't say apparent, but it seems to be more and more apparent like Demi has fabricated these allegations against Marciano. Now, to backtrack, I am talking about Secret Life of Mormon Wives going to Vanderpump Villa. They went there, it was filmed. From that time on, there has been both Jessi and Demi in conversation with Marciano's name, allegedly having inappropriate relationships with him. I'm going to get to in a couple of moments Marciano's explanation to where these allegations stemmed from and what really happened at the villa between him and Demi. But before I get there, I want to say that Lisa making a statement regarding the sexual assault, regarding seeing the footage that they had access to and all of the camera angles that were on Demi and Marciano, it's just you'll listen. I'll start here, okay?
Partly know what happened because we have cameras everywhere and I've seen every ounce of the footage. So I think when the women are doubting her, I think they've got very good reason. Any allegations against Marciano, I have the luxury of having all the footage. Oh, I categorically.
So she says that she categorically knows the entire situation, the extent of what happened between them. She has the luxury of having all of that footage. I think allegedly, please don't quote me, but I think that the Hulu executives also tapped into the conversation to affirm that there was no assault because I believe there would be some sort of liability on their part with this happening on the show. Now, what I would like to say is now we're going to go to Marciano's interview. Marciano's interview that he did with Heather McDonald. And I believe, yes, Juicy Scoop, Heather McDonald from the Juicy Scoop podcast. It's the announcement of this podcast, the collaborated post between Heather McDonald and Marciano, which started Demi's spiral, if you will, online. She already was spiraling, but she proceeded to make just more and more comments after the announcement of this interview. Real issues with this entire situation. Number one, initially, I had a bad taste in my mouth at the end of last season, not this current season that just came out, last season, watching the reunion and how all of the women seemingly just did not believe Demi because of how I am inclined to believe the victim. I'm inclined to believe women when they speak out about something. It was upsetting to see that overwhelmingly, without what we knew, without to our knowledge, them knowing the entire extent of the situation, like they could just immediately say that their discernment says that that's not true. That bothered me because, in principle, I find that problematic. However, as we're getting more information and a somewhat clearer picture is being painted of the evening. It's seeming like these women were accurate in their assumptions that Demi and Marciano were connecting, sharing a moment, actually, which equated to 3 hours together. They were flirting. And that's not to say that at any time women can't change their minds. Here's what's bothersome, right? It was the fact that they didn't believe them. And then now we're getting more context. It's the fact that Demi is, in my mind at this time, of course, we don't know. And that makes it even more gross to add to the situation. But in my mind, she's using the fact that you aren't supposed to question victims of sexual assault on if they changed their mind or if they were connecting with somebody prior. That evokes a layer of shame. Like, she's using that against us and against the other women to not ask questions about the situation. Because typically to say, oh no, they were flirting, is dismissive and gross, because of course women can change their mind at any time. But as we're painting this picture, and as Lisa and the production is coming forward and saying that they've seen the footage, and then we hear Marciano's version of events, it does sound like they were connecting, having a relationship. And Marciano, if you watched Vanderpump Villa, was fired from the show because of, well, first of all, he was not doing great at his job because he was so focused on the drama between his ex Hannah, between drinking, between himself. He also had an attitude multiple times with the women on the cast. I'm not a fan of Marciano, but he was fired, I believe, because him and Hannah made an asshole of themselves and sort of ruined a night, and guests heard of it, from my recollection. Demi hears that Marciano is fired because she's in communication with him from the second she leaves the villa. They're texting each other, they're talking. And when she hears that Marciano is fired, she texts Marciano to ask him, were you fired because because you were inappropriate with me? To which, at that moment, when she's asking him that, and she doesn't know the reason that Marciano is fired, he says that that's when Demi introduces this narrative of, Marciano touched me inappropriately. I did not consent to that, to try to get ahead of what she thought the reason that he got fired was for being inappropriate with her, and made this lie up to the women to sort of cover her tracks in the reasons that she was being inappropriate with Marciano. Now, he clarifies on this podcast, and I'm only going to play a few small clips. So if you're waiting for me to play a lot of clips from this, I'm mostly going to be verbally summarizing that. And that's courtesy of YouTube, who does not allow us creators to play clips. But what was I saying? Right. So Marciano sets the scene. They're at Vanderpump Villa. Him and Demi are talking for 3 hours. Other cast members of Vanderpump Villa and Women of Secret Lives of Mormon Wives have corroborated this, that they were in fact talking for 3 hours. And during that time, Demi's air or attitude of the conversation was she liked Marciano and she thought that she could change him. She heard about how Hannah talked about him. She heard some of the reputations, or like how people perceived Marciano. And she thought, like I said, she could change him, and that through them having a therapy session together, like, she could get to the bottom of who Marciano really is and why he's acting that way. He says that their 3 hour therapy conversation actually sort of turned into him being an ear or a shoulder for Demi to vent about her relationship. He did not divulge into any specific details during this about what Demi said about her relationship. If this is not your first time listening to the podcast, I have had my own assumptions on Demi's relationship. This is not to give her an out on any of her behavior, but she is still dating somebody that they call Grandpa Brett for a reason. She is married to somebody who knew her when she was a child, was around her at events when she was a child. Whether he outright knew her and had contact with her or not, it's weird that they were in the same setting and she's a kid and he's an adult. Okay. I believe that a lot of her thoughts about her relationship with Brett and the longevity of that relationship might have to do with some thoughts or some odd feelings about their relationship in general. I don't know that. That's just my opinion. But he ended up listening to her talk about, sorry guys, her relationship, how she was feeling apprehensive about if her and Brett were going to last a long time, and then offered Marciano. She said, I have to call my daughter. Do you want to hear how I talk to my daughter? Do you want to hear how I speak to my daughter? And he was sitting there like, yeah, of course I do. Which I also think is weird. The whole tone of their conversation is weird. So he sits there and listens to her call her daughter on FaceTime, and the two of them have a conversation. If you recall, Demi has tried to find ways to backtrack from this on this season of Secret Life of Mormon Wives. She said that her daughter accidentally clicked FaceTime the times that Marciano has seen her. I didn't believe it then. I still believe his version more than she does. And apparently, at the end of this conversation, I believe he asks respectfully if he can give her a kiss on the cheek. He does, in his words. And as she's walking away, she says to Marciano, I love you. He returns those sentiments, which he says is also on camera. And then the two of them have yeah, like a texting relationship for the times after. He said it wasn't just texting, they would do FaceTime calls, they would do phone calls. Now, he believes that a part of Demi um liked Marciano, right? And was interested in him and felt good about the way that he was making her feel. But he feels more like he can see Demi using their relationship to find out more about his relationship with Jessi. And ultimately, apparently, Demi was the one who brought Jessi and Marciano's relationship to production. It wasn't Layla, it was Demi. And she brought it to production under the guise of, I want more money next season. I want to make more money in my contract. I have this information about Jessi and Jordan's marriage and Jessi and Marciano. I deserve to be paid more. And that ended up backfiring on her. Yeah. So apparently Demi was basically like playing the long game, which she had been accused of from other cast members, which again, because of the tone of things, just felt wrong. So this is the interview. I actually decided that before I show the interview, it's more important for me to show. So the interview was announced. Demi's in the comments. She says many things. She talks about how she likes to play with her food first. Marciano allegedly is the food in question. And that when the truth comes out, everybody's going to regret things. To going in the comments, and I'll just read it verbatim. Oop, looks like he deleted it. Found his weak spot. Looks like he's not so tough after all. Was your daddy this big of a, and then cat emoji? So pansy, but worse. I'm sure he's looking down, so disappointed, and what an embarrassment you've turned out to be. There's still time to turn it around and tell the truth. So now she's in his comment sections referencing his deceased father and in a gross tone. She also made a comment to Jessi that now that Lisa Vanderpump is talking about her, that Jessi is just jealous of her. This was all happening yesterday on social media. Mind you, we just watched the clip of Lisa Vanderpump. And what did she say about about Demi? She basically said that categorically it's untrue. She watched the footage. She has seen what happens. She didn't outright say that, but she says, as far as the women's reluctance to believe Demi, I've seen the footage. I know what happened, and I can see that. Now, we're gonna watch Jessi's video that she posted responding to Demi's thought that Jessi is just jealous.
About you guys, but I'm loving this Demi crash out era right now. Her saying something like this is laughable because genuinely would never be jealous of someone saying these things that Lisa's saying about her. She got caught on camera, she knows it, and she's trying to backtrack. So since she wants to be petty and be an asshole, I think I'm just going to go ahead and say that Grandpa Brett likes to drink her piss like it's dirty soda, and he gulps it down like water, and that's what Fruity Pebbles is.
What? Like, so like now the bar is in hell. I can't figure out if Fruity Pebbles is a code name listen, first of all, I thought Fruity Pebbles was going to be Demi, unfortunately, using herself as a cereal bowl. And I was prepared to carve this image out of my brain, throw up forever, not have a holiday meal with my family this year. That's what I thought it was. Am I pleased? It's a little bit less than that. Not really. Did Brett think that she tastes like Fruity Pebbles, her pee? As people have pointed out, that's very concerning. How many Mountain Dews a day are you drinking to achieve that? Right. Second of all, is that not unsafe? Desperate times, desperate measures. You're in a desert. Sure, Brett, open up. You need some hydration. Any other reason? We know too much about people. It's too much. It's too much. Okay. Like, and again, Demi makes a post responding to Jessi saying this. And she's again like weaponizing something that's true, but she's like incorrect. I'll read you the statement. What my husband and I did one time behind closed doors was a consensual and private experience. I'm sorry, you guys did one time. I doubt it. First of all, she just said that it was true, like no denying it. I won't let a private act between my husband and I be a distraction from a serious act that I did not consent to. Again, now she's taking it back to the other thing. And it's like, yes, like she's not wrong, right? Like should this be talked about instead of an alleged sexual assault? No, but to me, it seems like what you're alleging of him is untrue. Continuing on, I shared this information with Jessi in confidence nearly 2 years ago. It's very telling that she's choosing to break storyline and bring it up now, only after her own affair has come to light. This is nothing more than a desperate attempt to shift attention away from her own behavior. And it's at this point that I'd like to say, I'm so sorry to everybody who loves the show. I kind of hate it. Cancel it, right? Jessi's husband, we have heard her talk about his abuse and her decision to stay with him. I just had a great conversation with my friend Toma. She is on socials at Tomaslian. I will link it below. We just talked about how something that's unspoken about this show is that because of how they were conditioned, raised around the Mormon church or still in the Mormon church, or just because of how yes, their position in the church, their relationship to the church, what they are conditioned around in Utah. That's the reason. Like that conservatism, that misogyny, that patriarchal feeling of the show, the men being abusive and not having consequences for it, and being coddled by other men, and protected by the church, protected by production, still allowed to come on. Like, this is all a symptom of this like patriarchal religion. And we're watching that. Like, I don't know what else to say. Like, I don't want to see Jessi and Jordan together. We know about their relationship. We have seen and heard allegedly Reality with Allie covered Jordan's following. He was following Kyle Rittenhouse. He was following problematic alt-right figures. I don't need to see him. I already knew he was a bad person. I don't want to see his relationship. Okay. And then it goes along with, it was Layla and Miranda that we've heard are the only ones not MAGA. And it's just, I'm good. Can we distance ourselves from this show? Can we distance ourselves? Like, Dakota was cheating on Taylor Frankie Paul this season with what seemed like her mother, but we never got confirmation. And then it was the mom's friend, maybe their aunt. I'm out. But let me just show you, I think, one clip from Marciano's interview with.
It sucks that I'm going to throw production under the bus, but Layla and I just spoke. We had our scene together where, I kept trying to say hook up and they wanted me to say sex and stuff like that. And I was just like, all right, whatever. So I ended up saying we have sex, but the shitty thing was the fact that production ends up telling Jessi before she even gets to, it was supposed to be.
So production, from what I'm drawing from this, made Marciano use the language sex versus hookup, which is what he wanted to say because him and Jessi had just kissed each other in that hotel room that night when they were with each other. And they didn't like that wording, hookup, and wanted him to specifically say sex. And then once he did, they called Jessi to tell her that. And it sounds like that's why Jessi was struggling to react when Layla is telling her this because she already knew because production had told her. Mind you, production essentially pulled that out of Marciano because he was intentionally using a different word. All of it's convoluted. I'm saying, like production is at fault. So much of this is on production, right? Demi is at fault. Marciano, he I don't know. Is he at fault? I don't know, guys. This is just like this entire thing is an absolute mess. And like I said, this is the unfortunate thing and this is the upsetting thing because of this and because of it seems as if Demi is lying. She has not come out and said outright, I lied about this, but it seems like she is lying. The unfortunate and unfair thing that this does is it's just going to lead to more people using this as justification to not believe women or to say, see, this can ruin a man's life. That's another thing that I was talking about with my good friend. And it's like, that's not the takeaway. Additionally, a lot of people are in Marciano's comments and they're equating Demi to Amber Heard. And this is a very controversial opinion that not lots of people agree with, unfortunately, but Amber Heard was a victim. If you didn't read the entire report of what she said happened in court, and if you didn't read all of the records from the trial that happened in the UK and the information that they were not allowed to keep in trial here, I'm sorry. It's disgusting that people still debate that what happened to her was not abuse and to equate Demi to that, even just to, and this is why people talk about how victims of assault, it's a wound that never heals because to even have her name dredged back up to women who have experienced that and saw what was happening to Amber Heard and identified with that experience. It's just painful all around. It's painful all around. So that's Secret Life of Mormon Wives. And that's everything that was happening there. It is the week of a holiday. Hello? Like we have to deal with our families and stuff. This is a lot for us to deal with on top of that. So we're going to pivot to the what is it called? To the rich grocery of it all. And all it took for me to hate this grocery store was to see just the start, 5 seconds of this video.
You don't have to shop here. I think people have this misconception that there's a sense of elitism here.
Today we're
If you don't want to shop here, don't shop here. I think people have a misconception of elitism when you look at every picture of this grocery store and they have specifically curated it to give off elitism and intentionally so, from the beige walls, the monochromatic feel, the lack of color. Okay? The food with no soul to it. Like there's never for such an expensive place, there's no soul to it. The people who are recording this video from Betches said that this looks like the inside of what one of the Kardashian snack cabinets would look like. Yes, this looks like, what did I say? Oh, panic room pantry or bunker basket, bunker basics. Like this looks like how a billionaire would stock their panic room. Proof in the pudding. Did you watch Paradise season 1? Did you see the grocery store that they created in that bunker for the people who survived, the elite people, the lucky people who survived? That's what it feels like. It's soulless. Where it's created by a Nepo baby, a billionaire. What is the purpose of this? We need community right now. We need cheap groceries. We need access to things. This is not that. This is exclusivity. Another thing I thought was interesting, as we see people try out this grocery store and like leave with products and they're being interviewed, it's all people who sound like me. Like it's people who sound like they're from Ohio, Pennsylvania, the Valley, California, and they're it's not native New Yorkers. Who asked for this? Who asked for this? So tone, I don't know if I'm going to start doing like tone deaf of the week, but like read the room of the week is to, I keep wanting to call it market pantry. Meadow Lane in itself doesn't feel like a grocery. Meadow Lane. It kind of sounds like a retirement home. It kind of sounds like the place that you would go to on your way to heaven, on your way exiting this world. Meadow Lane. Sounds like a veterinarian place. Like it doesn't sound like a grocery. It doesn't evoke grocery. It doesn't evoke community. Nobody can shop here. And the chicken nuggets were raw. There were rats. This is disgusting. I hope it closes shop in T minus 30 seconds. Moving on to give you a summary of Brittany's interview that she did with AD on her podcast. First of all, Brittany looks stunning. AD as well, but Brittany, wow, she looks absolutely stunning. It was interesting that Megan was sitting right outside the door, or like in the room with them and would sometimes say things. It seems like they are absolutely still very, very close friends, best friends. Here's what I learned from the interview. First of all, I think Brittany took a lot of accountability. I think she's reflected on herself. I think you can only reflect on yourself, or you should if you want to be a better person. When you've been on reality TV, I frequently say there's no greater mirror to see what you act like than to watch yourself back on camera. I can't imagine how humbling of an experience that is, especially through the lens of reality TV, where unfortunately producers want your most chaotic, dramatic moments. I thought she was very reflective. I thought she was very accountable about things that she wishes that she did better. And I think that a lot of people are being like very harsh on Brittany and saying that she's desperate or that she would have married anybody. And I think, quite frankly, when you come on Married at First Sight, that is exactly what you're supposed to be. Not desperate, but open to marrying anybody. You tell the experts what you want in a husband, your non-negotiables, what you want in a partner, but you have to be open to the individual that they give you. If you come in with this rigid expectation of their physical looks or how they act, we talk about season after season how you're not going to lean into this experience and the process isn't going to work with you. And honestly, you weren't compatible for Married at First Sight. So I feel like it's just such a heavy criticism for someone who, like, in theory, that's what we want. Like, we want people who are open to the other person that they have. And I think that it's like specifically a criticism that I've seen reserved towards women. And like, more interestingly, I've sort of seen that criticism as like desperate and willing to marry anybody reserved for Black women on reality TV, Married at First Sight. And I just personally disagree. So Brittany's non-negotiables that she told the experts about was that she wanted a man of faith who had a relationship with God, was family oriented. Do you get that sense from Will? I don't get this, that like we heard about the Crusades. I definitely don't think that, and because for Brittany, she felt like if my husband has a relationship with God and puts God first, then everything else will fall into place. I certainly don't think that that was like a present foundation in her relationship. And I think it's interesting that the experts chose to ignore that. She talked about the shift in the relationship with Will after they were intimate. And Brittany was main worry was, am I going to be pregnant? Look, we're married, but I don't like pregnancy. Like we didn't even consider this. And Will's solution, and she, to quote her in true Will fashion, was for them to not have sex anymore, which ultimately made Brittany feel rejected. She says that she takes accountability for not realizing that she went in with expectations of what a husband should act like, what a husband should be, what it looks like. And she was not prepared for Will, and Will was not prepared for her. Will wanted to get to know the basics of Brittany. What's your favorite color? What books do you read? What comic book hero is your favorite? He asked her that wedding night. She wanted to get to know him, to go deeper. How can I be a good wife to you? And even just those differences in how they communicate cause tension. And for me, I'm going to say I told you so multiple times. I told you that Will didn't like the fact that Brittany was trying to force him to open up. And like Will didn't want to share like that. Like Will wanted to keep things surface level and grow like a foundation of trust. And like he felt like telling Brittany that, I don't know, something was going on in Will. Okay. Next. Brittany wanted a passionate relationship. Remember, Jalen talked about wanting a passionate relationship and, a husband who can't keep his hands off of her. I'm picturing Melissa and Joe Gorga because I'm watching Real Housewives of New Jersey for the first time right now and made it to season 3. She said she wants a passionate relationship. And in her last relationships, she could admit that it would start out very passionate, very hot and heavy. He's obsessed with her. They really like each other. They're having fun. And then it would fizzle out. And she ultimately believes that that might be a reason why her relationships never lasted more than 3 months. Having that context and looking at the relationship between her and Will, yeah, that's different, right? And it really comes down to they have different love languages. They have different communication styles, different love languages. What's the last thing? There was something else that they differed in. Coping mechanisms and attachment styles. They differed in that. Like they differed in all, and it's fair to say that the experts, like sometimes you want your opposite, you want your calm in the storm, but they go way too far to the other end of things. Brittany reflected back on their time together with Will, and her frustration was because that she thought that he should express emotions one way. She was used to people expressing emotions one way. If I'm happy, I look happy. I don't understand what he's giving to me. And she didn't know Will enough to know or accept that he needed to express them another way, and that the way that he expresses things is different, but he's still having those emotions. So again, I think that it's clear that Brittany's been accountable, watching herself back, having these conversations in therapy. And I think that I don't think that the relationship fell through just because of Brittany. Like I think that it took two for the relationship to fall. She did not really question if Will was ready for marriage until they broke up. And it was really just how cold he was and how he was able to detach himself so quickly that made her feel like, I don't know if he ever loved me or if he was ever ready for marriage, but she admits that that was a problem in their relationship too. She internalized Will's behavior and felt like he's not ready for her or he doesn't want her, instead of he might just not be ready for this stage with anybody. Now, people will probably have their own opinions on that. Before decision day, Will and Brittany went to dinner the night before, and he brought her a gift, told her that he doesn't want any surprises on decision day. And when they left dinner, Brittany had the impression that that there would be no surprises. They were both going to be saying, yes, you won't have a surprise on my end. And so when she received a call from him the next morning at 6:30 in the morning, she was like, huh? Now, after their dinner, they texted back and forth a little bit about what they're going to wear the next day for decision day. But then all of a sudden, Brittany stopped really hearing from Will until, like I said, 6 a.m. the next day when he calls and says, I'm going to say no. And that's when he vocalized those concerns of the experts are going to want us to move in together. What if it doesn't work out? We have different communication styles. And Brittany felt like Will was being Will in true Will fashion, was overthinking things. I wish that Brittany had listened to that. I think he was expressing himself. And I wish she didn't push at it. But She says that what we didn't see is leaving decision day. She asked Will, were you secure in your no? And he said no. When asked if he was secure in his yes, he said yes. When he traveled that evening, because this is crazy, to say yes on decision day and then have to go out of town for work, that does suck, right? But he had to travel that evening out of town for work. And while he was away, Brittany was looking up couples therapists for them. When he gets back, Brittany felt like he was a little bit annoyed or just wasn't excited to see him. So she said, it doesn't seem like you're excited to see me. And he sent her a text that said, I'll make sure that never happens again. And that's when she started to feel like, he's going to break up with me. And he did. He came back. They had a conversation with his suitcases. He said, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't care about you. I don't want to be together. And he left the apartment. They had not spoken until the reunion. Now, AD does not ask once about the contents of the letter, about Brittany visiting the apartments, about Will's leasing office, throwing shade at her. Hello, HIPAA. Is there no HIPAA? But also, yeah, so we didn't see that. We don't know. Okay. Oddly enough, Brittany talked about an issue in their relationship that we never got to see, was that Will was of the impression that Brittany thought Will had an inappropriate relationship with one of their producers. And she found this out after Chad comes back from a conversation with Will where he looked very uncomfortable. So Brittany asks him, what? What happened? And Chad said, Will thinks that you think that there's something going on between him and a producer. So Brittany calls Will. What? Hello, Will? Why are they saying that? When have I given you that impression? Can you come home? Let's talk. Instead of Will coming home to talk, he proceeds to say he was going to the taco truck to get some food and then doesn't come. So, 30 minutes go by, an hour, 2 hours. Brittany calls him a couple of times. Where are you? When are you coming home? Eventually, he FaceTimes her out of nowhere. And when she answers, he's on the couch with his mom and sister. And so she calls him after, like, why did you just do that? Why'd you just call me with your mom and sister? And he's like, I wanted to show you I'm not doing anything shady. Like, look, I'm literally sitting at home. And then they ended up not talking until the next day. I think that Will felt like Brittany was distrusting him, and I would be interested to learn more about why. I wonder if that producer, unbeknownst to Brittany, ever said anything like, I don't think she likes me, to Will, if they were closer. Also, this is not the first season of Married at First Sight where someone felt like their partner was having a fling with production. In fact, was it not last season? I don't know. At one point, Brittany and Will had to get over the hurdle of him sending her a text at 1 a.m. saying that he doesn't want to do this anymore with her. And then the next day, walking it back and saying that he was just drunk. Question marks. Brittany says to this day, she does not know where Will got the thought that she had an issue with him in a relationship with producers. She says that at the reunion, her and Will did have a couple of moments where someone was talking that Will is not a fan of, Josh, and Will was making faces. So was Brittany. They looked at each other, communicated with their eyes that they were sharing the same thoughts about Josh. Josh, everybody can't stand you. And after the reunion, which was the night before this podcast. Yeah. So the night before this podcast, Brittany, Jalen, and Megan were sitting at the bar. She ends up having a private conversation with Will, and they both just say that they honestly didn't realize how they were coming across during the season. They understand why the experts matched them. Will felt like he was meeting a completely different Brittany. He didn't know this side of Brittany. And they were both talking about how they were grateful for the experience and don't regret anything. That's it. That's the recap. That's it. That's pretty much all I have to say. Everybody, make sure that you've liked this video, subscribe, leave a review, enjoy the holiday with your family. Tell me what you're eating. Tell me what you're giving to. And thank you for spending this time with me. Bye.